Hey guys, Deathbyphiw here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do an updated tier list of tank heroes after the Season 9 patch, so stick around. Dive is meta. I've said this time and time again in my previous videos, and like you all know, you've been playing Overwatch for the past couple of weeks, and you've experienced how rough it is playing against Dive and whatever role you play, but Dive is the meta. And I'm going to start with something you may find a little surprising, who I think is another S tier tank. D.Va. D.Va is just so good in the current situation. Her kit is really well, and just being so strong that she is, and having such a high HP pool, it just makes her so strong of a tank to play. She's also goes really well against what I think is the second baby meta, which is hit scan, like Widow being really strong, Soldier 76 being really strong, heroes like Sojourn, who's not fully hit scan, her right click is, she's S tier. I mean, these kind of heroes are just really strong in the current meta, and a lot of people are playing hit scan. A lot of people in Overwatch do play it who don't main dive. Like, I don't really play dive. I'm a hit scan main, generally in like high masters, low GM. So D.Va just pairs up so well in that situation. I would put her in S tier. Yes, you could then counter her, but that requires your enemy tank to swap to Zarya, which isn't necessarily the best thing to do, but it's not the worst. But it's better for you if they get off what is also meta, Ball. Ball is S plus. He's by far the strongest and best tank in the game. He's just all about survivability. Rolls in, does damage, picks up a health pack, rolls back in, dives in, slams on somebody, deletes a hero, rolls out. Like, he's just so hard to deal with, and you really need to run a Sombra against him, in my personal opinion, if the Ball is just so pesky and a Ball player you're going up against that is really good. It's just a rough time to play against him, but Ball is getting some love, and he still is S plus after this patch update. Moving on down to F tier tanks, Ryan didn't really receive much of anything. We thought Zen was going to get some sort of nerf, but it's not the nerf that we thought he would get. We thought there was going to maybe be something done to Discord. Well, that wasn't the situation. So are you going to play Ryan? Nope. He's just so bad. He offers little to no value. He can't do much in the current situation, the way the meta is, and it's just like you hold your shield, it gets melted, and you die. You get a Discord orb on you, and you get deleted. I feel for you, Ryan mains. Not much of an update here in my tier list, so sorry, still in the gutter. Other tanks that I think are a little bit different than my last tank tier list is Ratra. I had him in A tier, saying, well, Rush is still kind of okay if you're playing Ram and maybe you have an Ana and a Lucio to enable him. It's just like, Ana feels a little bit harder to play. I still think Ana is good. I did my support tier updated list in a previous video, but Ratra just seems a little bit underwhelming. He doesn't seem bad, but he doesn't seem as dominant as he was previously. So still has a really good ult. I think he has like the best tank ultimate in the game, second to Zarya, but he's just, not great at the current moment, not bad, just slightly above average. He's workable, he's doable. Another B tier tank who got moved up from C from my tier list is Zarya. Zarya got some pretty serious buffs. I would put her in a B plus tier, even above Ram at the current situation. She does like up to 190 damage now, max damage. That's higher than Sim. She could delete a target in like 1.5 seconds now, like a 250 to 300 HP target. That's pretty strong. Does quite a bit of damage, and once again, her ultimate is also one of the best ultimates in the game. I think her tank ultimate is second to Ramatra's, so she's really strong. I would put her above Ratra and put her very solid, strong B plus. Dive is meta, so I'll go with the dive tanks. Another one is Doomfist is A tier. Not the greatest compared to Ball and D.Va, in my opinion, but still really solid pick. A solid A tier tank who could go in, do damage, get out, presses his Q and his alt, goes up, gets away, or uses it advantageously for your team, and goes into the back line on like a Zenyatta who's not as mobile, you'll deal with, you know, a Doom in the back line. If you're playing something other than you know, Ana or Kiri, you know, you have to work around the Doomfist. You have to play supports that aren't going to die as easily if you have a really good Doom. So Ana and Kiri is not hard meta anymore. So that usually was the two supports rolling out. Kiri has the cleanse to keep him alive. Ana has a sleep to sleep the Doom who's going into the backline. You don't have that anymore. So if he's a problem, maybe swap to Moira on support and get a Sombra on DPS to try and hack him. But still a very solid, strong pick. Definitely A tier. Another A tier tank I'm going to say is Winston, another dive tank, but not as strong as the others. I feel like he doesn't do as well on dive as like a Diva, Ball, or Doom. Still a pretty decent A pick. I would put him in like A minus. I mean, it's not too hard to counter him. And his ultimate is a second life, but I feel like he's not as strong as the other dive tanks. Still is a really solid, strong tank to pick, but just not as strong with his kit in comparison and the amount of damage he does. You need the DPS passive to kick in on whatever target that you're going after, so you have to work more so with your DPS and say, look, hey, Tracer, Sombra, you know, Genji, we're targeting the Zen right now, so let's all jump on him. So if you have a Soldier 76, can you hit this person, shoot that person? Oh, DPS passive is procced on that person. Okay, Winston's gonna dive in. He has a little bit less survivability than the others because, you know, Diva can eat shots, Ball can just roll right out, Doom could just jump right out, or, you know, shield himself and take damage and press Q and get out. Like Winston, yeah, he could press his Q for a second life, but if you don't have it, it's just your shield to protect you. And you normally jump into a target, and you gotta wait for that jump to come out, and you could get Discord orbed and just chunk down with the DPS passive and not get a healing. With Ana not being meta and Kiri really not being hard meta, like you gotta have Zenyatta's orb on you to get you some heals, or Lucio just like following you the whole way. It's kind of hard, in my personal opinion, but he still is really strong and really good. I'm going to put Sig in I'm gonna put Sig in B tier. I previously had him at A tier, like a really solid A plus. I think he's like a B plus right now. He is probably the best out of all the other tanks, out of Rush, out of any shield tanks in the game. He does a lot of damage. He's just really, really boring to play. And, you know, I would say you play him if you're diffing the other tanks. So if you're playing against somebody else and you just happen to be doing well against them, you stay on Sig. If they're playing anything other than like Diva, Ball, and Doom, you could do pretty decent against Winston. Like, I think you could run Sig against any other tank matchup and do really well against him. He does a lot of damage. His ult is still really good. Kiri's not meta, like I said, so you don't have that cleanse to save folks out of your ultimate. So Sig is still a solid pick. He's not as great as I thought he was. Still is really good. B plus. Better than Ratra and Zarya. C tier tanks. This is a tough one. So I want to put Junker Queen in B tier, but I feel like she's moved down to C, but like C plus. If not, she would be B minus. I feel like with Zarya getting her buffs, and just Sig and Ram being like better picks overall with their kits, and just Dive being meta, she's in the middle somewhere. And I would put her at like a B minus to a C. She's not overly strong, but she's not weak. So I'll put her at C plus. I know I don't have the plus or minuses here on the side, but I'll put her there. She's not terrible. She just feels a little underwhelming, a little weak in the current meta of tanks. but not a terrible or not a throw pick. Another tank who I think is still C tier is Orisa. You know, Rush isn't meta. If Rush was, Orisa would be solid A tier plus, maybe S. But Rush isn't meta. The current situation of tanks and the way the game is played doesn't support her. Nothing has changed here much from my last tank tier list. And she's just not in the mix. I'm gonna put Hog at C tier. I think I previously had him in D tier or maybe even F tier. I think he is just a little bit better now, but very low C tier. He's like C minus, borderline D plus. It's not as bad as Ryan and not as bad as Maga. I think Maga's D tier, but still is kind of a throw pick unless you're really good with him or you want to counter a Doom or a Ball. He works so well against Doomfist and Ball, hooking them and countering them. And Ana really not being in the mix, you don't have to worry about that anti. So I feel like he's gotten a bit better as the season progresses, and people really learn like, oh well, I could counter him with Doom. I could counter him, counter the Ball, counter the Doom with running a Hog. So I don't think he's as bad as Maga, because who does Maga counter really? Maybe Reinhardt? I don't know. Maga goes well against Ryan. Well, Maga could work against some of these other tanks. Like Maga could fare, do pretty decently against Junker Queen, Orisa, Hog, and can really like obliterate Ryan, because Ryan is just god awful in the current situation, the current meta. And well, Zarya got quite a big buff, so I wouldn't say he does so great against Zarya, but he does poorly against Dive, he does poorly against Sig, and I don't think he does so well against Ratra or Zarya. So who does he play pretty decently against? Junker Queen, Orisa, Hog, and Reinhardt. So there's a lot more tanks to pick, and he has a huge hitbox like Hog, and projectile size changes just put him in the gutter. Well, this is my tier list after the Season 9 patch, a few weeks into the season. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think what I did is fair here? Let me know. I'm all ears. I'm here to listen to what you have to say, and we could have a discussion about it. Well, as always, happy gaming.